No, just why? Just no. Why? No. Why? No. Why? No. Just no.
Because you're here.
And today we have The Strangers Chapter 1. Lord. Don't get me wrong, I was curious, I was intrigued, I was interested. I am a fan of the first Strangers movie. You know, back in the day, I got very lucky. My local art house cinema was playing the first Strangers movie in theaters, and for as jump scare and early mid 2000s cheese as it was, admittedly, and still is, it's enjoyable. It's good, and especially for when it came out, the cultural impact that it had on horror and media and people alike, like, it's a solid film. The sequel, not so much. So when they announced that they were gonna do, basically, they said, okay, we're doing this. Because the trailer started playing, and I said, wow, this looks hella familiar. And then we see, Baghead and the two little, the mom and kid and whatnot. And I'm like, oh, this is The Strangers. And they literally even say The Strangers. I'm like, okay, cool, it's a remake. Chapter 1. I'm like, wait, so we're getting a remake of a film that's not even 20 years old yet, plus basically announcing to the world it's going to be one of multiple. And they announced they were going to basically be kind of doing a soft reboot-ish. It wouldn't make sense if it was a sequel because it's almost the exact same song and dance as the first movie, so it makes more sense for it to be a remake. And when I heard about this, I said, okay, well, a remake of these movies with a more modern, hopefully like a better touch. I mean, I was here for it. Like I said, as much as I liked the first movie, there's only one good scene in The Strangers Pray at Night. And that's it. I saw that one in theaters too. Not good. People were even more stupid in that movie. But boy oh boy, this was not what I was expecting in every way, shape, and form. What's even crazier here, get this, right? The director of The Strangers Chapter 1 and presumably 2 and 3's, Remy Harlin. Now Remy Harlin, in addition to this, also directed Deep Blue Sea, Long Kiss Goodnight, Cutthroat Island, Die Hard 2, and say what you want about this last one, but Elm Street 4 Dream Master. Dude has a solid filmography of some of the best in terms of, like, those are all great movies. In my opinion, they're all really good movies. What happened, Remy? What happened, Remy? Je ne sais pas. Je ne sais pas, mon ami. Also, I put it as a side note. I can throw them up here to give them credit, perhaps, but this movie had 3 writers, if that helps you. Now, that's not always a harbinger of doom and demise, right? But in my opinion, too many cooks can really spoil the stew. It stars 2 people who I didn't really recognize from much anything. Madeleine Petsch, she was in Riverdale. She's gonna be in Chapter 2. Spoilers, I don't give a shit about spoilers, by the way. You're gonna hear some stuff. And then Froy Gutierrez, Teen Wolf, okay, and Hocus Pocus 2. And somehow The Strangers Chapter 3, spoiler, I guess they both survive, who knows? Before I get into what's going to be a rant full of BS and spoilers and all that, I'm going to say the only 2 things I put on here as positive notes. Are you ready for this one? Mostly faithful recreation. I don't know, LOL, that's what I put. Just a mostly faithful recreation. I mean, that's a positive way of looking at it. The only other positive for the movie, Richard Brake has like a 1-minute cameo in a diner. I like Richard Brake, it's fun seeing him pop up in horror related media. I think we last saw him in when I covered Barbarian, he was in that movie too, so a little bit of a bigger role there. When I tell you this was possibly the worst cinematic experience that I've had in my life, to be fair, part of this is influenced by the audience that was around us, but it was kind of fitting, right? Because we were already sitting down as we slowly realized what a steaming pile of sewage of unfinished filtered sewage waste in a treatment plant this movie ended up being. 5 minutes roll in, there's the first cold open kill, which is boring and sucks. As we're 5 minutes in, this couple comes in, sits down next to us, and they had missed the beginning. They lean over to my gal pal. I can hear on the left, it's a couple, and the woman is like, "Hey, what did we miss?" And my girlfriend's just like, "Huh?" Like, I mean, she was polite to them. She was like, "Oh, nothing. Just it just a few minutes in, there was a kill. That's it." But it's like, bruh, just how about you get in on time? I don't know. Or it's just fun. It was funny. Maybe that wasn't the biggest social faux pas. What was even bigger, and I'm overdue for like a TikTok rant video or something just to get my feelings out there. This gaggle, this herd, this group, this just like 8 to 10 of what I can only describe as TikTok troglodytes come in, and just because the floors are hollow in this theater. First, they all head to the back. And I guess they didn't find much luck with seating because I bet you a whole paycheck they didn't buy tickets. They're not supposed to be here. And these are all kids sneaking into an R-rated movie from, I don't know, whatever Despicable Me shenanigans they had already gone to see. I don't care. But then they head down to the rows in front of us and just start like filling out what's not already filled up, which was hilarious because this is assigned seating. And this one couple that did own these seats had to kick out 2 of the little shitheads further down in the front rows. So not only were they like 10, 15 minutes late to the film, but then almost the entire film, it's the murmurs, it's the phone use, it's the out loud conversations. If this was any other film, I would have been screaming at these kids. I've been straining them up in the town square. But it seemed sort of fitting because this movie was not a good movie and these kids were not good people. And I don't know if it's literally, perhaps there's no legit animosity. Perhaps we live in a society now where ignorance is just so prevalent that people genuinely don't realize what they do has an impact on others, because these kids were just yapping the whole movie. But talking about the actual movie now, right? So it's weird because it's supposed to be a remake, but I figure you do a remake like this, right? It's like a horror game remake. You would want to take this as an opportunity. Look at the first film. What does work? What didn't work? Stay true to the source material, but improve upon the previous work. Maybe even, I don't know, subvert audience expectation. The little things in life, you know? So I figured there'd be a plot twist. Maybe they kill one of the strangers. Maybe the jump scares are more creative or intuitive. There's subtlety, perhaps. Still big old loud jump scares, but maybe the injuries are different, or maybe the characters are smart or act differently. No, they remake the entire film. Almost, not entirely, their situation is a bit different. Major story beat by major story beat, and then take out all the good stuff and then somehow make it worse than the original. Whether it's arriving in town to the little, I don't want to say backwoods, but it's a small town, little cozy vibe, and they're, city boys! This unmarried couple get in to the diner, and immediately the film plays into that fear of these people and the unknown. And instead of being something like Alan Wake, which is like, oh, we'll come over to Bright Falls, and oh, you're a fast-paced city boy, ain't you? But we're gonna be friendly, and we're gonna get along, and you can appreciate the culture, and the people are still nice and welcoming. But no, they play into the Hollywood stereotypes of oh, we don't like your kind around here.
Tough crowd, right?
And anybody that would live here working at the diner or local kids or whatever, they're all losers and burnouts, and the mechanics across the street are creeps. So not only do our main characters hold that opinion in their head of oh, look, it's Mom, Pa, Dahmer or whatever, but all the characters in the town, the actors are instructed to play up those stereotypes. I mean, I know those stereotypes exist, and I have my own fears about stopping in an iron skillet to have breakfast in the great state of Indiana or something, but come on, it's so on the nose. And the way they make it to the cabin is less creative. I love the concept in the first movie of this couple who, at one friend's wedding, he proposes to her, but she says no, and then he had this whole plan, so they have to awkwardly drive to this house in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., and they're just both okay, well, we're not married, but we're gonna be staying here, and you see all this that he had planned, and she's trying to reconcile with her feelings, and he's trying to drink away his. It makes more sense. It's unique for a horror movie. It's a much better setting, as opposed to, our car broke down. Was it sabotaged? Who knows? But mechanics will take care of it while we stay in this little Airbnb Airbnb here or whatever. I put in my notes they nerfed all the possibly creepy moments. Like, I think the creepiest moment you see in the trailer is when she's in the shower and then Sackhead or Pop or whatever the hell his name's supposed to be in the credits appears next to her. But there's moments where he also appears behind her. Creepy moments in the film that in the original, they would have happened, and blinking you miss it. Like, you have to be paying attention to the background and how the scene is laid out, but it's almost a little bit more subdued. In this film, the director lingers on those shots longer and then gets closer and makes it more obvious and really tries to hammer home like what you're supposed to be scared about in these shots. Everything's just so obvious, and I don't want to blame this on the actors. I'm sure they were trying, but the way they're written and the way they were directed to act in this film, we all strongly dislike the main leads. They are so dislikable. The dude, by the way, outright hateable. He's an ass. He is an asshole. In the original movie, you kind of hope that our main characters, maybe figure out a way out of it. They can reconcile their emotions. You're kind of rooting for them. But this couple, this is the couple that we saw, will they, won't they, making out and then arguing in the halls of high school, or just being super cheesy with each other during football practice. I don't know, man. This is just the couple that I avoided in high school, and now we get to watch them for a whole movie here. No subtlety. This film is telegraphed and goes through all the tropes and all the motions. Isn't it supposed to be rated R? That's crazy that it's R. This movie completely wastes and does not use its R rating at all. You can tell from the opening cold open kill. It's this rando guy in a suit being chased through the woods by the trio, and of course he does, he trips and he's just like, oh, and then they catch up to him and he's like, please. Papa brings up the axe, and I'm like, oh god, axes scare me in horror movies. Is it going to be a brutal axe kill? The camera's behind the tree line, and as Papa brings the axe down, we pan behind the tree and hear the impact and a light squelch of the axe meeting. What? It's got to be budget. It's got to be budgetary constraints, right? You're going to have an R-rated movie and try to up the ante, and then with your most gruesome opportunities and moments, you're going to do off-screen kills? Are you shitting on my dick right now? So as soon as you see that opening kill, you have a pretty good idea of where we're headed. He goes in town, the locals are weird. They missed an opportunity here. So in the original, there's those Mormon kids or whatever that are trying to go door to door. They're the ones that discover the bodies at the end of the first movie. And this one, they're just stand-ins of creepy kids that are have you heard about our Lord and Savior? Whatever. They're passing out the pamphlets, and they're creepy, and they run away. They don't really show up again, I don't think. But what's weird is that the pamphlets come back up again in town, and you start putting the gears together. You're like, okay, well, this town keeps mentioning, religion and these pamphlets, and, these city people come in and they're kind of skittish and standoffish and mildly antagonistic around them. Their car happens to break down, and they just so happen to have an Airbnb in a secluded part of the woods they can post them up at. I thought they were queuing up this movie to be oh, the town's in on it. What a twist that would be if the strangers, it's yeah, there's violent crime in the U.S. happening all the time, and now instead of this being an isolated incident of a family who's just doing it for the sake of it, perhaps it's the town partakes in this, and as transients come through, they lure them in, put them in these situations, torture them, frighten them, and then kill them. Maybe, but no, just a bunch of red herrings. Just a bunch of how can we make this town seem creepy and religious and awkward and off-putting for our city boy. And then it just leads up to the end where they just kind of it's the same thing as the first movie. They get stabbed, they're left to bleed out, but then she wakes up in a hospital, unlike the first movie, and then it cues it up to be sequels, even though the after credits is Baghead sleeping, laying in the hospital bed with her. But I'm sure it's part of her dream, right? They're going to continue the chapters of the strangers, heaven forbid, and she's going to be a part of that, so sure. I could sit here and rant and rave about this all day, but from the experience we had in the theater to the movie itself, it all kind of fit, right? It's a very bad movie. It could have been something interesting, potentially different, a really cool, creative remake, but it's wild how they chose to basically almost entirely remake the first film, but take out what made it good. I mean, the mild changes they made it worse, and then pretty much end the same way, but now they're going to try to sequel bait and cash in on multiple entries. I don't know. Don't waste your time with this movie, not even to stream it. It's such a boring, predictable waste of an R rating, horror, thriller slog. Just watch the original Strangers, leave it at that. You don't gotta do anything else. Why did I give it this rating again? It's not even so bad it's good, it's just so bad that it's just laughable. Because it was a mostly faithful recreation. Richard Brake is in it for like a minute, that was kind of cool. And it gives me something to talk about, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if anything ever got this low on my rating scale, but I give it a high 1 out of 5. A high 1 out of 5. It's not a broken movie by definition, you know. It's not like, oh, this movie literally doesn't work. It works, but only in the sense where a bad car will kind of get you from point A to point B, but it's going to run terribly the whole time. Don't waste your money. So many better horror films come out this year. I'll be reviewing some very soon as well. I'm going to see Chapter 2 and 3 because by my own standards and creed, I have to, and at this point, I'm morbidly curious where this guy would take the story. For this director and his track record to somehow sink to this level and do these films the way that he did, it boggles my mind, and it's crazy this film turned out the way that it did. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. Don't be a nuisance, don't be an asshole in the movie theater, have some respect for yourself and those around you, please. And I'll see you in the next movie review I do. And goodbye, travelers.